Hello and welcome to another segment of the AI Winner Show. Today's guest is Suennen, a venture capital investor and healthcare industry advisor who has worked broadly across the fields of healthcare IT, medical technology, healthcare services, and especially where these fields converge in digital health. Lisa is Senior Managing Director of GE Ventures and is serving on numerous private, public, and non-profit boards of directors like Aviation Health and the California Healthcare Foundation Innovation Fund. She was named Top Digital Health Evangelist and Influencer and Tech Superwoman by numerous investment firms and media outlets such as Goldman Sachs and Forbes. I'm really excited to speak with her today and hear what she has been up to. Hi Lisa, how are you?
How are you doing?
Good. Let me start by thanking you for being here and taking some time to talk a little bit about your work and what your goals are. You are such an accomplished woman and venture capitalist, but was that always on your agenda? How did you start?
Well, how did I start becoming a venture capitalist and all this? It was purely an accidental thing, actually. I didn't intend to be in this field. I stopped taking math when I was in high school, and I intended never to touch numbers again as long as I lived. I started off with a plan to be a political journalist, and I watch with envy what's going on TV right now because I think I still want to do that. But I was fortunate to join a healthcare startup when I was quite young and get a senior position there that I probably didn't deserve, but I got. And I was fortunate to be there while that company grew from a startup to an $800 million a year enterprise and through its IPO and its ultimate sale. And after that company was sold, a few of the other executives and I decided we wanted to start a fund. A focus at the time was on how you improve quality of care and healthcare at the same time reduce cost, which at that time sounded crazy. I mean, now everybody talks about that, but at the time it sounded crazy. But it really wasn't my plan at all to end up where I am. But I've been very fortunate and had some great experiences and good partners along the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a natural and inspiring story, coming straight from your background. You accomplished something incredible and helped change the way people thought about healthcare as an industry. If you would look at your work today, what is the most important thing for you? What are your priorities today?
Oh, my priorities today. Well, I'm about to leave my current role and start something new, which I don't know exactly what that's going to be yet. So I've been thinking a lot about my priorities. Whatever I do, I really want to combine, the idea of helping people from a healthcare standpoint with helping people on the business side, entrepreneurs, succeed. I really like partnering with humans. I don't really hope to be replaced by AI anytime soon. And, figuring out how to make things work. I like to grow things. I like to make things work. So to the extent I could participate in those types of things and, in the meantime, make some difference, that would be nice.
Okay, so are you looking for new partnerships or for more work helping other entrepreneurs? What are you looking for right now?
I don't know exactly yet. I'm kind of in the exploratory phase if I will stay in venture capital or if I'll just go, join a company or do something on the consulting side. I'm really not 100% sure. It's a very nice time for me. It's exciting to think about different possibilities and things I can maybe learn from other industries and not just healthcare. So I'm an open book at the moment.
That's good. There's lots of great possibilities in the industry. So when it comes to artificial intelligence, do you see a great potential merging healthcare and AI to get exactly what you described? Better efficiency, better outcome, lower costs. What do you think?
I do and I don't. I mean, I definitely think AI and machine learning and all of the related technologies will be important and have a clear role. I also think that we've kind of gone a little too far in stating what the opportunity is there, meaning, in my opinion, we're never going to replace the important role of people in healthcare I think we should think about AI as a way to augment people in healthcare, augment the skills and capabilities, refocus people on their best skills and most high level skills, while the computer does other things. I do think there's an opportunity, a big opportunity, to improve clinical trials, to improve research and discovery, to improve clinical decision making. It's pretty clear that knowing everything is impossible if you're human, and knowing everything is easier if you're AI project. But I also think that the data is not ready for prime time in most cases. There's a lot of bad data out there and a lot of biased data out there. And I think that we have to be very mindful of that before we get too excited about what the immediate impact we can have. And I think that even with all the data, even if the data were great right now, there's a lot of stuff we know for sure. For instance, if people took the medicines that they were given to lower their blood pressure, they'd be healthier. That doesn't take any more data to know that. It takes the changes in human behavior. And so I think we have to balance, again, those, the human behavior side with the information side to get to better outcomes.
That's right. Healthcare and well-being are connected, and we haven't really understood their complexity well enough to change human behavior yet. And I agree. There are opportunities to make things different, such as the discussion about socialized medicine. How do you think healthcare could be structured in the future?
Well, I think that, as I just said a minute ago, figuring out ways to customize and personalize human behavior, or personalize and convey ways of changing behavior to people, either through learning more about them or figuring out what motivates them, and using that is really key. And I do think that there's a role for data there, not just medical data, but consumer data. And there's many folks trying to figure out how to combine real world data, not just, that which is medically relevant, but all of data is medically relevant. What you buy at the store, where you go on the average day, et cetera. And figuring out how to combine the social data is a real opportunity to help people. I do think that we can use these things also to identify the ways we can help people through addressing the social determinants of health, housing, transportation, financial, whatever, because really those have a huge impact on healthcare, state of wellness, state of being, and many people believe they account for as much as 50 or 60% of the cost. If they were addressed well, in other words, the cost would be 50 or 60% less. We can use these technologies to identify people in need and give them a better plan that is not just medical in nature. So I think those are big opportunities. Clearly, there's big opportunities around drug discovery and drug monitoring. We can tell through data and doing, sort of streaming the data from people, whether the medicines they're taking are helping them or not. And that's something we don't do much of today. But companies like Health Reveal are doing. They can help drug companies see whether or not the medications that people are on are being effective or not, but also what else is going on with people as they wander about in their regular lives. So I think all of those things have opportunity. There's certainly even administrative tasks that can be improved with AI. Imaging, analysis can be improved with AI. There's a lot of opportunity. I think it's just finding out where the high value ones can be most easily implemented and adopted. That's the trick for people working right now.
Yeah, I agree. That's the main problem we are trying to solve here. Can you tell me an inspiring story you might have discovered, or whether you know people who are entrepreneurs and have changed healthcare for the better?
Sure, I'm sure that I can. Well, for instance, I'm on the board of a company called Evidation. And Evidation does real-world evidence collection in support of clinical trials for primarily drugs, but also devices. And they have figured out ways of recruiting people and participating in the sharing of data that helps those people both get paid for their contribution and also have a fuller picture, as like I was just talking about, of what's going on in their lives. So as they're studied, it's a much more meaningful outcome. But I think, that opportunity, so that's one side of it. On the other side of it, company like Health Reveal that I just mentioned, for instance, they're using predictive analytics, machine learning to identify people who are sick before they even know it, who, for instance, that might need a valve replacement and who don't even realize it, how much at risk they are just wandering around in their lives, and, using that as a way to reach out to people and help them get the care they need. So there's that, that company I think is really focused at the, getting to the consumer quickly and helping them see how they can improve their outcome. Oh my goodness. My dog is now barking in the background. He's worried about being replaced by a machine.
I'm sure that won't happen anytime soon. Although there are some really cute robotic dogs in Japan I've seen. I would like to know your thoughts on a really large and central problem, making healthcare more affordable.
I agree. That's a critical issue. And I'm on the board of a company called Gravy as well, which helps small businesses buy insurance for their employees when it's very difficult for small businesses to find economical ways of offering insurance even when they really want to do it, which they don't have to do, but they want to do oftentimes. And I think that's a hugely valuable, service that they provide.
Yeah, I agree. Healthcare costs are on the rise, and right now more than 110 million Americans can't afford copays or deductibles, resulting in #1 reason for personal bankruptcies. One part of the problem is very high prescription drug prices in the United States. And as you already mentioned, drug discovery is a very expensive journey, and patients eventually have to bear these costs somehow. What do you think AI can do to change that, and could this become better soon?
Well, I think it's too early to answer the question of whether any of these technologies have made drug discovery shorter and cheaper, because none of them have been approved. None of the drugs that have come from them have been approved yet. And I think that there's an estimate that the first time a drug might be approved is in 2020, that a drug that was discovered through an AI platform. Until something's approved, we don't know if it was shorter or cheaper. And so we know there's targets found easier. We know that there's more data available to evaluate, but we really don't know the answer to your question until drugs start hitting the market. So I guess the answer is no, to your question. Not yet. No, not yet. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. We really don't know anything until the public has access to these drugs. The quality of data is essential for change. What are your ideas to accumulate or produce clinical grade data?
Well, right now, the way to make data clinical grade is mostly to hand curate it. Certainly some of it works from the machine to the utility. But you look at Flatiron, for instance, company that's been greatly lauded for its skill in aiding research through AI, and they freely admit that they do a lot of hand curating of their data. I think part of it is that when we started collecting all this data we're using now, nobody thought AI existed or was going to exist. So, you have to decide you're going to be good about collecting the data and collecting the right things and being careful to ensure the populations are diverse and all of the rest before, it's going to work just on its own. So to the extent that we're now all very conscious of this need and effort, and to the extent that there's, literally tens of millions of people whose data are collected every year, either through medical interventions, through going to the health system, or through 23andMe and, other places like that, we will start getting better data, because we're starting to think about data collection through the lens of use instead of through the lens of payment. That in and of itself will make a difference, but it takes a lot of time. And I think a lot of the folks who start, timing is everything in venture capital where I dwell. Going after these businesses early sometimes doesn't pay off because the world isn't ready for them, either from an adoption standpoint or from a data standpoint, a technology standpoint, what have you. And I think in AI, we're very early in the timeline of adoption, and certainly in the timeline of effective adoption because of this, in part because of the state of the data.
Yeah, I agree. Most companies who understand AI and the need of very large sets of data fight to break the data silos down. Large hospitals, insurance companies, and employers try to monetize this data and protect the data from use, ending up where no one has all the data they need to get to a result using AI, oftentimes with the argument of following legal law or privacy issues. The result is you cannot gather the data or acquire clinical grade data. Is there any way or any good strategy you have seen to overcome that problem?
Yeah, I've seen companies, and again, I mentioned Health Reveal earlier and Evidation. Both of those are the ones that gather data from multiple sources and integrate it and normalize it at the patient level. But you have to have willing customers and willing participants in the system. And right now, the biggest challenge isn't technological, it's will. I think hospitals can share their data, whether it's an Epic or Cerner or what have you. And if only they all, meaning all the health systems and Epic and Cerner, would cooperate. And I think it's a lot easier to get the data out of these systems and then to put it back in, and for the workflow. That is very hard, the latter. So I do think there are companies out there and technologies who've been relatively successful in collecting clinical grade data, but you've got to have a lot of willing participants. And it's still quite early, and there's a lot of politics involved because people are afraid to give. If we all believe data is the greatest asset that most of these organizations have, then getting them to share it is very hard.
Yeah, that's true. That is why I believe and advocate for the legal right of a private person to commercially own their own clinical grade data. If the law changed in that direction, every patient would own their data with an economic micro value. It's like a music copyright, right? If you write a song, it is pretty clear that you can commercialize that right by licensing it to multiple users. And like Spotify is paying for the usage of a song, even if that's just a fraction of a penny, the number of plays is accumulating to a really large amount. That would incentivize every patient to share their data to as many data users as possible, to realize that financial value of that ownership. There's always a way to anonymize the personal data by using specific numbers as identification instead of names and social security numbers. So there are no privacy concerns. But that would be a true game changer because then AI get enough data to truly make a difference and save many more lives in a shorter period of time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, patients do not own their data now, but they do have the right to it. But that doesn't make it easy to get. So I think it's a two-part problem there is, making it easy to get. If you ask your health system for it electronically, it needs to come electronically in a timely way, and they don't make it easy. And then secondly, you have to, as a consumer, be willing to do the work. There's still going to be some effort to share it. And most people aren't that engaged in their healthcare on an ongoing basis. They only get engaged when there's a real crisis. So it's a two-sided problem. I do believe patients should be the owners of their data. And I do believe that they should have the right to get paid for it if they so choose.
Yeah, exactly. And there are some companies like Doc.ai who are using blockchain technology to aggregate, share, and monetize this data. I believe that's a proper way to think of monetizing these rights. And maybe it will motivate people. Do you see any other challenge in healthcare you would say is a low-hanging fruit and to entrepreneurs, independent from AI focus or not, would be worth tackling?
Yeah, I think access to mental health care and substance abuse services is a big problem. There's a lot of people trying to provide them in weird and wonderful ways. but access for patients, knowing where to go, knowing how to validate that it's good and a fit for them is very tough. And I think the mental health needs of most people are vastly, vastly underserved. Partly it's because of stigma and people being afraid to access the services, but oftentimes it's just not knowing what to do and whether it's good. And if you, unlike medical services where you can just ask people, hey, do you have a good doctor for heart disease? Most people don't talk openly about the behavioral health problems that they maybe suffer from, despite the fact that, it is a wide range of people who suffer from these problems, mild and severe. So I would love to see some people make some strides there to improve the access to, awareness of, and delivery of behavioral health services that work. That would be a fabulous thing.
Agreed. As you have said, people hesitate to talk about it, oftentimes because of their cultural and religious backgrounds. Another main reason is there is no objective data available yet. For now, diagnosis and treatments in mental health are based on Q&As with mental health professionals. For many reasons, this is just not correct or objective data because patients lie or are just incapable of answering the question truthfully. There's a huge opportunity here to produce objective data which can be compared, aggregated, and benchmarked so that we can gather intelligence out of it and help people. Thanks, Lisa. Are you open-minded or are there specific things you want to talk about?
I'm not sure exactly how to answer that question. I get, fortunately and unfortunately, I get so many inquiries. It's hard to respond to all of them in a timely way. I know people are really eager for mentorship and I love to provide it, but I can't service every single call or email, unfortunately. But to the extent, there's a business opportunity where you think I could make a meaningful difference, I'm happy to hear about it. I also am co-founder of a company, a not-for-profit company called Sweetener. Sweetener.org is on the web, and it's a mentor matching company for women leaders in healthcare to find mentors. That's another great place to go for assistance and guidance if you're female. So I think, that's another great place to find people like me. The best way to find me is through my website and blog site, which is venturevalkyrie.com. I also do a podcast called Tectonics that's available through there or on iTunes. On my website, you can find how to contact me, and also, through LinkedIn or the usual social media methodologies.
Okay, cool. Do you want to add anything else?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today.
Great. Thanks a lot, Lisa. Really appreciate having you on the show. If you want to watch more interviews with outstanding people like Lisa, you can find us on aiwinners.com as well as our YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. See you soon.